Is my mic on? Is my mic on? It is? Okay. We can start.
So, who are you? Who is Dr. Boyd the Chemist? Tell us about yourself.
My name is Dr. Daryl Boyd. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Yes, there really is a Kalamazoo. I'm the son of two very supportive and incredible parents. I have an awesome wife, and I have three great siblings. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry, a master's degree in biochemistry, and a PhD in inorganic chemistry, which is not to be confused with organic chemistry. These days I'm working as a research chemist in a government laboratory, and I'm working on polymers, very specialized polymers with some unique capabilities that ideally will be beneficial to the world at large.
What was your reason or inspiration for building the site?
Well, my inspiration for this site, I must say, starts close to home. I have a very large family, in particular on my mother's side, and as a result, some of my older cousins, they have children who range in age from really small to children who grew up with me, essentially. And so I discovered that one of my second cousins, when he was like 6 or 7 years old, he found out I was a chemist, and he just thought I was the coolest person in the world because I was a chemist. And ever since then, he's in high school now, he has just followed my research career, my very young research career. And I have tried to instill in him an emphasis on staying in school and pursuing careers in chemistry or in science just in general. I also found out that my niece, this is one of my brother's children, she is now 8 years old. Well, she also finds the fact that I'm a chemist quite interesting, and she has said to me many times she wants to be a scientist like her Uncle Daryl. And actually, if you check out the site, there's a video featuring her. She wrote a book about me and the fact that I'm a scientist. And so these are some of the inspirations that I had in making this site in the first place.
Who is the site meant to reach?
Well, admittedly, the site was designed for young people when I first conceived of it. And I began to think about the many people who either, for some reason, don't have access to some of the things I was able to have access to when I was growing up and when my interest in science kind of grew. There are some children are homeschooled and they don't necessarily have access to labs. There are some schools where there aren't permanent science teachers, like they have been looking for teachers for years and been unable to fill those teaching slots. There are parents who just want the opportunity to bond with their children while at the same time giving them something to learn that is valuable and useful. And so there are a lot of reasons why I started the site, and it was initially focused on children, but I will tell you that there's other content on the website specifically that everybody can relate to. There is a blog tab that I have on my page, and on that site, on the blog tab, you see some of my opinions and my thoughts on science issues that relate to everybody, things that are facing science, challenges that science is going through, and some interesting things that are being done that are science related, and you'll find that on the blog tab. So the site overall, I intended, and I still intend, primarily to focus my emphasis on children, young folks, maintaining their interest in the STEM fields, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But at the same time, the site is definitely one that I think everyone can benefit from the videos that I shoot with the science experiments, to some of the things I talk about on the blog, to some of the places I go where I'm trying to spread the gospel of science, so to speak. And so I really hope that everyone checks the site out, and hopefully you'll all learn something from it.
What made you pursue science as your occupation?
So what made me want to become a scientist? Well, a number of influences, of course, but again, I have to go back to my parents. They were instrumental in introducing me and my siblings to science. Every Saturday morning during the school year, they had involved us in a program called the Hands-On Science program that took place at Western Michigan University. Shout out to Miss Sherry Fuller, who was diligent in picking up all the students to go to that program. And from, I think it was 9 in the morning until noon on Saturday mornings, right while there were cartoons going on that I would have much rather sat home and watched at that time, we were participating in this program that had a biology class, a chemistry class, a physics class, and a computer science class. And I think they rotated it so that you took 3 of them each Saturday, and it was rotated. So one of those 4 you would not take on any particular Saturday, but you took the other 3. And in that program, it was led by a gentleman whose name was Dr. Leroy Ray. And the emphasis was to involve children in science. And Dr. Ray would always say, boys and girls, girls and boys, are we scientists? And we had to repeat after him and say, yeah, we're scientists. Now, during the summertime, that same program had like an agricultural angle to it. So we actually worked out on a farm, 3, I think it was, days out of the week out of Dr. Ray's farm, where we learned about agriculture and growing things. And so I have quite a green thumb. I can grow almost anything in the garden that you can think of because we learned so much from that program. Another thing that was really instrumental, or I guess beneficial from that program, was the emphasis on bringing around minorities who were scientists. At that time in Kalamazoo, there was a company called Upjohn, which was later purchased by Pharmacia and later purchased by Pfizer. From the Upjohn company, there were a number of minority scientists, black scientists, Latino scientists, and they would come and speak to us. And that was actually quite influential to see a black scientist, a living black scientist. And also, they came with such knowledge and such excitement, and I still remember many of them, Hugh Mark and Craig Showers, and these people were so positively influential, and it was just an awesome program. And so that's a major jumping point for me being a scientist today. Another program that my parents, my mother had involved me and my younger brother in was a program called Science in the City, and then there was another one called the Math and Science Preparatory Engineering Program, I think it was. And these things were run in part, I think, by Dr. Brenda Earhart. There was the Kalamazoo Area Math and Science Center. I was a student there. So many programs that I was pushed to be a part of, even though at the time I would have much rather been out playing Nintendo or watching cartoons or watching sports. I was pushed to do them, and after a while it really became something I was interested in. And now I think up science. Sometimes I have dreams about the experiments I was running that day or experiments I intend to run. Sounds crazy, true story. Another thing that I would say about me personally being a scientist that influenced me was just curiosity. I used to have these radio controlled cars that we would get for Christmas time, and I remember watching the battery. The first time you used it, you had to charge it like 8 hours, and you'd get like 25 minutes of playtime out of it. After that, you charge it for 8 hours and you get 20 minutes, and then you get like 15, and then you get almost nothing. And that intrigued me. I'm like, why is this battery getting worse? I'm still doing the same things with it. And so I learned about batteries that way just because I was curious. I kept trying to figure out ways to improve them. And then there were other things about science that were as a result of not good circumstances. For example, I know a number of people who passed away of various types of diseases, which is why I pursued the master's degree in biochemistry, to learn about them. And so these are the kinds of things that influenced me growing up: curiosity, and then being placed in circumstances where I can learn. And I'm actually hoping that this site can do, at least in part, for anyone watching or anyone who looks at the site, the type of thing that the Hands-On Science program there at Western Michigan did for me as I was growing up.
Who is the scientist that has influenced you the most?
Wow, most influential scientist. Okay, personally, a couple of people come to mind. One of the most influential scientists was my PhD advisor, Professor Tong Ren at Purdue University. I think he's brilliant. My postdoc advisor, Professor Frances Ligler. She's not only very humble, but she's incredibly accomplished. The fact that she's so accomplished yet maintains her humility is impressive to me, but she has been, both Professor Tong Ren and Professor Frances Ligler have been incredibly supportive of me, and I've enjoyed working with them. And my undergrad advisor, Professor Vince Pecoraro, just brilliant. I took classes with him as well as worked in his lab for a couple summers and for a school year. Awesome. I worked for another professor in undergrad, Professor Linda Abriola. She's now at Tufts University. These are all very influential people, and their leadership and management styles are different, but there's something from each of them that I definitely learned and sticks with me, and they've all been very supportive of me in the aftermath of me leaving their laboratories, and so that's been great. Historically speaking, George Washington Carver is somebody who sticks out to me because he was a chemist, a black chemist, and he did some amazing things. He's probably very underrated in terms of everybody should know who he is. If you ever had peanut butter, even if you have a peanut allergy, if you eat potatoes, he did so many different things with just those two products, peanuts and potatoes alone, aside from a whole list of other things that he was able to accomplish. If you don't know that man, then you're really missing out. And I could go on and on and on, but I do think, since you asked the question, I do think it's important for each person, especially if you're going to be in science, to find an individual, either I would say both historically as well as somebody living in your field that you can look up to or that you can aspire to be like, or at least aspire in some way to be like and replicate some of the successes that they've had.
A lot of people think of scientists as very smart, but sometimes dull or boring. Outside of the lab, do you do anything else other than science research?
Yes, I have plenty of hobbies outside of science. So I know that there's a stigma attached to scientists that we're very boring and we don't socialize very well, and that may or may not be true for each individual scientist, but I can tell you that there are plenty of scientists who do lots of other things other than sit in the lab all day and think of E=mc². For me personally, one of the hobbies that's relevant for the website is the fact that in my free time, I write quite a bit. In fact, I had a blog site that I ran for more than a decade. But on the site now, you'll see there's also a blog tab, as I mentioned before, and that's probably the most relevant other hobby that I have as it pertains to the site. I love to write, and so I like to give my opinion on things, and I try to articulate it as clearly as possible. And you'll see that on the website. I also like to shoot videos for science, and so that is something that is a major focus of the website. So if you go to the videos tab, you'll see plenty of videos that I've shot of me doing experiments, sometimes not going the way I thought they would go, or taking way longer than I thought that they would take, but that's the name of the game. So I've taken a couple of classes on how to shoot and cut videos, and so that's another hobby that I have that's relevant for this site.
Looking ahead, how do you plan to grow and expand the website you've started?
Well, the one thing everybody can do that will really help me out is if you go to my YouTube channel and actually subscribe to it. The channel has the same name as my website. It's DrBoydTheChemist. That's Dr. Boyd the Chemist. Look me up and subscribe to the channel. Now, if you think you don't have a YouTube account already, you can sign up for one, but you probably do have one. If you have a Gmail account, you already have a YouTube account. So just log into Gmail and then open up a new tab, go to YouTube, and you'll see that you're already logged in there on YouTube. And so then just look for Dr. Boyd the Chemist, click subscribe, and you will have really helped me out in the early stages of this site. I look forward to making this site something really awesome to help benefit children and as many people as actually look at it. And so I thank you for the interview and this opportunity to speak to everybody, and I'm hoping you do drop by the site. Thank you.